with a 0 to 60 time of 20 seconds, guys. 20 seconds to 60. Just really bad at everything. Bad, bad design, bad interior, didn't run well, brake problems, didn't even get that great a fuel economy. I mean, they just didn't do anything right. And they were just hideous cars. What were you driving when you got your license in the 90s? What did you have? I know some of you are really stuck with bad cars. Chevrolet, Chevettes, Citations, remember those? What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Sorry I've been away for a minute. I've actually been focused more on short form content again. Ever since TikTok disappeared for 12 hours, I decided maybe I should work on short form for a little bit, because maybe they will really push short form content to Americans since, all the talk, all the buzz about it disappearing, Back for another video today. Today I want to talk about cars in the 90s, the worst cars that you possibly could have had if you were a kid in the 90s like me, because there were a lot of bad ones. So not only cars from the 1990s, but cars from the 80s and the mid to late 70s as well. A lot of us were driving those cars when we got our driver's licenses. So I want to know in the comments, what were you driving when you got your license in the 90s? What did you have? Did you have a beater? I know a lot of you had beaters. Did you have a hoopty? Did you have a cool car? Comment below if you had a cool car. Did your parents buy you a BMW? I know a few of you. I know there's some of you that got really nice cars when you turned 16 or 17 or graduated high school. So let's hear about it. Let's talk about it. Or who had a car that was supposed to be nice and turned out to not be so nice? Because I know there are some of those too. Back when I got my license in 95, I wanted a Ferrari F355, but who didn't want one of those? That was the unattainable dream car for me. I remember seeing one of those in Baltimore and being blown away. I remember when the movie The Rock came out with Nicolas Cage and Sean Connery, the yellow F355 Spider, 6-speed, man, that was just, so nice, right? Aside from that, also the BMW M3, the E36 M3 was definitely up there. It seemed a lot more attainable, was still out of reach for a teenager in the 90s like myself. The Toyota Supra Turbo. Those were the cars that I dreamed about, that a lot of us dreamed about. The car I ended up driving was a 1980 Buick LeSabre. It was a hoopty, big car. But it was kind of cool because we could pack a lot of people in there and party hard in it, and we had a lot of fun in that car. So turned out to be a cool car, even though at the time I did not like it. But you could fit 3 people up front, you had bench seats up front and in the back, so you could easily fit 6 people in that car. That was my car, 1980 Buick LeSabre, 4.1 liter Buick V6. It got the job done. Didn't really particularly do anything good other than being big and hauling a lot of people around. I know some of you are really stuck with bad cars. Chevrolet, Chevettes, Citations, remember those? The 4-cylinder Iron Duke engines, just really bad at everything. Bad, bad design, bad interior, didn't run well, brake problems, didn't even get that great a fuel economy. They just didn't do anything right. And they were just hideous cars. The Citation, the Chevette. I knew people that had both of those cars. But with those cars, with the Citation and the Chevette, you expected them to be bad. But you also had your 4-cylinder, 3rd-generation Camaros and Fox body Mustangs that looked cool, that looked really cool for the time. They had little 4-cylinders with 80, 90, 100 horsepower maybe. The Firebird and the Camaro started off with 4 cylinders with a 0 to 60 time of 20 seconds, guys. 20 seconds to 60. And even in those days, even in the 80s and in the 90s, that was slow. That was really slow. You had your Chevrolet Cavaliers, your Pontiac Sunbirds and Sunfires that, they're just kind of boring, but got the job done. Ford Tauruses, minivans, Dodge Caravans. Maybe you had your mom or dad's Dodge Caravan from the early 80s. That was a 4-banger, that was slow as hell. But again, at least you could fit all your friends to go party in it, right? And we had the Geo Metro came about around 1990, the 3-cylinder. And in those days, we laughed at 4-cylinders and especially 3-cylinders a lot more than we do today, because 4-cylinders have come a long, long way. And even 3-cylinders, the 3-cylinder in the Corolla GR is pretty impressive. And it's faster than practically all the 80s sports cars, at least the standard production issue cars. But that Geo Metro 3-cylinder hatchback, yeah, that was another one. Geos just in general, that was just like a car that you did not want to have or have to be seen in the 90s. Some of you guys got nice cars. Maybe in the late 90s you got a 318 BMW hatchback, the economical hatchback. Remember that car? Good looking car. I wanted one for a while. It turned out to be a terrible car, extremely slow. That car is slower than a Dodge Neon by like 1 second. I want to say a standard Dodge Neon, not talking about the SRT. Slower than a Neon. And they downgraded the suspension. It didn't have the same suspension as the standard 3 Series. We got some muscle truck here. Sounded pretty good. Got some big slicks on it. You guys probably couldn't see it. But anyway, back to the 318 Ti. So yeah, that was a car that looked cool, but turned out to just not be anything special. Although it would be a cool car to have and just to modify the hell out of it, to swap it, to put a turbo V8 in it, to put all new suspension, the resto mod it basically. That could be fun. Is this a mail truck on Sunday? I didn't know the mail came on Sundays. What is going on? Maybe they deliver for Amazon or who knows. But I had the Buick and I remember hating it, did not like it at all. Then I had a Trans Am, which I really loved. I really enjoyed that car. Had that for a few years. And then I had my Honda Civic that I've told you guys about, my 97 Civic EX 5-speed. And that's when I really got an appreciation for the Hondas because it just lasted forever. I got 275,000 miles out of it, and the clutch was still the original clutch in the car. Rarely had any problems. It was a pain to change the timing belts. We had to change the timing belts all the time, but other than that, amazing car, cheap to run, great mileage, 36, probably 38 miles to the gallon. Back then, that was a lot. Decent pickup. I mean, you really had to rev it out because it was a VTEC 4-cylinder, but decent pickup, especially if nobody was in the car for the time, because remember, cars were a lot slower in the 90s. I'd also be interested too if any of you guys have a Survivor Chevette or Citation or Cavalier, Sunbird, if anybody still has something like that in good shape, because I do think that's cool. Now that they've gone away, they've been crushed. Cash, what was it, Cash for Clunkers, Obama's thing that he had in the mid-2000s, that destroyed a lot of those cars. So not many of them are left. Now seeing one is kind of cool in a way because the nostalgia, it'll take you back if you see a Chevette or a Citation. I mean, God, I haven't seen one of those cars in years. Having a 4-cylinder Mustang back then or a 4-cylinder Camaro, especially on automatic, because you had to have the V8 and it had to be a stick shift back then, because there's a big difference in performance. Now the 4-cylinder Mustang, I know people still laugh at it, but the performance is legit. I mean, in a world where everything is fast, I want to say the 4-cylinder Mustang is 0 to 60 in under 5 seconds, right? I mean, that's not slow, that's over 300 horsepower. But in those days, we're talking 20 seconds. 20 seconds to 60. Now if you have, I'd say 8 seconds, 9 seconds is getting slow, is on the slow end. Just in general, not obviously for sports cars it's slow, but for cars in general, anything over 8 seconds in today's world is going to be slow. What was your dream car back then? Was it an older car? Was it a muscle car? Was it a modern supercar? Most of us, we lusted over it was the BMW M3, the Porsche 911 Turbo, the 993. You had the Lamborghini Diablo, you had the Ferrari F50, you had the Dodge Viper, you had the Corvette ZR1, you had the LT1, Z28 and Trans Ams, and later the LS1 Trans Am and Camaro, and the LS1 C5 Corvette came out at the very end of the 90s. 5.0 Mustangs were always cool, obviously, and fast, man. 5.0 Mustangs, especially the lighter weight ones, the LX hatchback 5-speeds were quick, man. People were just doing basic bolt-ons with those, maybe changing the gears out, and they were quick cars, man. Still one of the best sounding cars. All of the BMWs in the 90s, I think, were definitely at about their peak. I think BMW, in my opinion, mid-90s to mid to late 2000s is when they peaked. I do like the new ones. I like the G80. I know a lot of people don't like the pig nose. I mean, they are pretty incredible cars, but they've gotten bigger. They're not what they used to be. And granted, back in the 90s, they didn't have the competition that they have now. But that was the car. If you wanted like a German sedan back in the 90s, man, the BMW M3 was just, there was the M3 and then there was everything else. That was the car to have. That could do everything. And back then, the Porsche 911 wasn't as drivable. The 993 is still very drivable, don't get me wrong, but it's not the car that it is today is what I'm trying to say. That can just do anything. The 911s of today can do anything, man. It's wild. So I really think the BMW M3 stood out a lot back then. And man, I really wanted one. I remember in those days riding in a Fox body. I knew a guy that had one that had about 400 horsepower. And man, it was so scary. And it was so fast. It would just, you know, burn the tires like crazy, and any gear, it seemed like you could just smoke the tires, and just quick as hell, could beat practically anything on the street. It was probably a high 11, low 12 second car. I don't remember exactly, but I mean, back then that was like having a 9-second car today. I mean, that was just crazy for back then. But that's why those cars developed that cult following, because bang for your buck, and at the drag strip, they were just impossible to beat. And you had great sound. I mean, everybody loves a good sounding muscle car. Thanks for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe, hit that notification bell, and I'll see you next time.